up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and welcome to another video. So after long last, I am finally getting a chance to look at the Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Skull, which is the renewal version. So my previous video on Jigen ended with them finding the mysterious box or case, and this is what was in the case. My world is my universe is a very, how do I put this, a very alternate reality type situation. So a lot of times I substitute what I need to substitute, and this is no different. I've been wanting to do this review for a long time. This one actually goes out to my homeboy, Berserk Flow. He is one of the casualties of all the YouTube shenanigans. But him and I were going to do this review a couple years back, and I just never got to it. I want to say about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. So I'm finally getting to it now. So this one goes out to you, but you are gone but not forgotten. But anyway, Kamen Rider Skull is pretty dope, and this version encapsulates all the things that I really dig about him. But is it really worth the $60 markup? Because these guys are pretty expensive. Now I'm going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to do a closer look. We're going to look at, articulation. We're going to look at accessories. But I'm going to go into some details about this line. So the SS line, and that's what I'm going to refer to it from now on. It's a long name, Shinkocchou Seihou. I don't want to say that every time. But anyway, SS, the renewal line. All these figures are examples of something I've always praised Figuarts for doing. They always revisit older figures, and anything they can add to make the figure better, they put those things into effect. Anything they've learned from releases that came after their original try, they put that into effect with their renewal versions. I'm still looking into getting the renewal. What was his name? Shadow Moon from Kamen Rider Black RX. But anyway, this is no different. The problem is that looking at him, you can see a difference in the sculpting, and a difference in, like, a slight difference in the shape of the figure, almost as if two different people are wearing the same suit. But proportions are different and everything. But is this really a change that's worth $100? I paid $40 for the original one. The original one was released at about $39.99 US, and the new ones were released at over $100. So I want to say they were $60 when they first came out, but now they're all coming out at about $100, something in that ballpark. You can find them for a little bit less, but not by very much. So what I want to point out is, and I want to let the pictures speak for themselves as well. There's not that much that's different. There are things for, fans like me who are hardcore about my Toku stuff. Like, I like the suit accuracy, because I'm a big, advocate for the film versions of a lot of these characters. But I mean, when you break it down, would you still be happy with the original release versus the new one? And I think you would. I don't think that they really did too big of a, too much of a departure to warrant the huge price tag. Now, there are a lot of things that are different. I mean, texturing is different. The SS version has a matte finish as opposed to the gloss finish that the original had, which is more on the toyetic side, whereas the SS version is going for the more, how do I put this, the more suit accurate look. The paint job on the helmet, it's a different shine, a different kind of gloss, and there's like shading kind of put in there. There are details that are a lot more accurate to what the suit actually looks like in the film or in the show. Like you see here, this is still a beautiful sculpt. You've got the compound eyes and everything. But when you look at what the SS version did, it's 100% suit accurate. 100%. The shapes are different. You see the red shape in the center is, it's there, it's painted. It's not even just red, it's metallic red. The compound eyes aren't as hardcore on that version. They are on the second head, which is the crystal head, which both figures come with, and that's why I'm making this comparison. Because, like you guys know, Skull is one of my favorites. It's just the simplicity of the design in an era where the designs are so bombastic, and they've gotten really like worse since Skull. Um, it's nice to go back and see these more simplistic designs that are still in line with the Kamen Rider aesthetic. But anyway, you can see here they tone down the crystal kind of feel, and you can switch the heads fairly easily in this one. You don't have to pull them off of the peg. You just separate the head, the back from the front, and then you just apply them. And I like this because they won't come off unless you separate the two parts and pull it, the back part off of the back, front part off of the front. But they just tone down some things because in the show it's toned down, and the lighting helps accentuate the fact that the head is transparent and there is a head underneath. And I think this approach, it works really well. It's not that different from the original, but it does give you a good effect. The belt, or driver. This is the original driver. You can see that the Gaia memory, the skull Gaia memory, is actually sculpted in there, which is dope. Here's the new one. The Gaia memory is actually removable, which was a pain in the ass for me. I mean, like, as soon as I was able to get it out from the packaging, it fell onto my rug of losing shit. You know what I mean? My magical rug of, despair, because anything this small, and that's why I'm not taking it out for the review. It sucks, but you can get an idea. It's a tiny chocolate bar sized USB drive, and it fell on my rug, and it took me a while. Me and my son were just combing through everything, and then finally I found it. So if you're, into that kind of level of detail, this is right up your alley. But for me, I put a piece of stick tack inside and made sure that it will stay in there because I have no business pulling that shit out. So I was okay with it being sculpted before, but it is a nice touch that you can actually move it, you can pull it out now. And he does have a hand that allows him to hold it. When you look at their proportions, though, you can see, and I have to go back to proportions because it's important when you see them side by side. The smaller figure has the bigger hands, bigger shoulders, but like his body is smaller. You know what I mean? His arms are kind of small. The head is smaller. The helmet is smaller. The hat, though, is on the smaller side as well. It looks thicker, and you have to push it down farther in order to get it to stay on the head, where the SS version, it's more natural and it sits the way that it does in the show. The elbow joint is important that I pointed out the elbow joint. You can see how clean that looks on the SS version. The old one has the standard SH Figuarts kind of look. Not bad. It's just, one feels more like you could trick the audience if you take the right kind of pictures from the right angles, and the other one not so much. Here's the back side of the figure, the back actually of the figure, and you can see the difference, gloss versus the matte finish, and the pattern is different. It's a little more show accurate. The name of the game is just show accuracy. The belt, that little insignia on the back of the belt, and I know this because I bought one of these for Little Strident. He actually has the double driver, and there's these little insignias. Do you see how different they are? It's kind of crazy because it's the same belt, even the design of the belt. Moving down to the legs, they're very streamlined because that's the design, but you can see the mechanics are slightly different. The knee looks cleaner on the new one, and he has like a thigh swivel. It's pretty obvious that there's a thigh swivel. You can kind of see the drop hinge for the original release, so you get some gapping, and if that's a problem for you, then you're going to want to end up spending whatever it is that this figure is going for right now. Whereas the other one is cleaner because after the fighting body that Figuarts came up with for the Kinnikuman figures, they've been cleaning up that drop hinge stuff. I mean, certain figures still have it, like Batman has it, and some of those other Figuarts have it, but It's not something that's common on every release. The back of the knees. This is the original release, and you see the standard Figuarts hinge. I know it's about the process of putting that in. It's easier that way. This hinge is a little less obvious. You know what I mean? It's got more of the design of the undersuit, and the patterning is on the hinge itself. When you move down to the ankles, the rocker ankles for the original ones are kind of exposed. You know what I mean? They're open. He has a deeper ability to, you know, shift his foot, you know, kind of more of a sickle foot, you know. Whereas this one has a little less, but it's higher up. But again, here's a detail so you can see what it used to look like. You can see the hinge going all the way into the foot deep, and you know it's not as pretty. Whereas the new one is definitely all the way cleaned up, you know. So it's not too much to talk about there. The elbows are another place. The new one, the elbow cleans up really well. The other one cleans up really well too, to the point where you almost don't even see it at all. But as soon as you bend the elbow, that's when it reveals the inner workings. And you know, for me, like I said before, a toy is a toy, so seeing joints doesn't, you know, bother me. But I gotta admit, those are some pretty elbows. They did a good job making it clean up so that it doesn't feel very I don't know, like exposed and very mechanical. It feels more organic, whereas this feels more mechanical and more toyetic. So if you're into, you know, the figures that kind of trick your eye into believing that they're not what they are, because you hear these complaints, you know, and that's the only reason why I'm even pointing them out. If that's you, you're probably going to want to go with the renewal, because you know the standard one has toy hinges, you know what I mean, toy joints. um I like both. I don't really have a problem with either of these. I love what they did with the new one. I'm not gonna lie, it looks great. We just watched the skull portion of the Rider. What was it? It was like a versus film that came out a couple years back. But yeah, it looks great. All right, so let's talk about this guy's articulation. So there's not that much here that's different. So I'm gonna point out the things that are different from Skull Crystal, because essentially it's an upgraded version of this. So the main things, you know, the head is exactly the same kind of, you know, ball joint at the top of the neck and at the base of the neck. So you have that. You can look up really well, it's down really well, you know, side to side, no issues. Now you didn't have any issues on that one, but it's just a little bit more motion, more range than this one. Still ball joint, you know, but more range of motion. Yeah. Big things are stuff like the shoulder pads, like these shoulder pads hinge up like that, and you can see that the joint is on the arm. You see that? So that when you rotate the arm, the shoulder pad is on it, which is amazing, because that way you never have any issues when you raise his arms up, because they're on the arm, the top of the shoulder. And I love that. Now on the renewal version or the SS version, same deal. But number one, they're smaller, and it's a different kind of joint. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, see? Different kind of joint. Same exact, you know, situation. You can rotate, you don't have any issues. Another cool thing is the pecs are on the joint. You see that? So that when you move the shoulders close, or the arm closer to the chest, you can get this out the way. Pushing it down, it's like a ball joint. And you can put the arm closer. It's not very much that you need to do that for. It almost feels like an unnecessary joint that they added there just to show that they could do it, but you know, it's there. Um, the driver itself is on a joint. So it can go up like this, like you see in the show. Come on, stop getting out of focus.
So much like you see in the show, it can sit up like this. You put the thing in and then boom, and then you push it down. So that's cool. The legs, these are the newer legs. They don't drop down like those legs do. They just have the weird joint right there, and then everything is closed up in there. So you still have the same range of motion. Same with the knee. Instead of having the knee that folds up like this guy, you see how it breaks once you open it, once you bend the knee. And it does kind of do this on the move, the show version a little bit. It's more in line with this, where it's rounded off, and only the top of the knee has that piece that comes off. So I dig that, and that's really it. That's where the scarf is articulated. And you probably noticed that from pictures that I took throughout the review. And that's really it. There's not really that much of a difference when it comes to articulation. It's just you have more articulation when it comes to certain things. And I was going to just skip articulation altogether, but then I figured, you know what? I may as well put an articulation section so that you guys at least get an idea for, you know, what's different, if anything. So that is it.
So let's get into the accessories. The original one was no slouch in the accessory area. He had a decent amount of accessories, lots of extra hands specific to things that he does, like holding his hat. He has the pointing hand for counting up your sins, the gun holding hand, and he has fists because Homeboy was a hell of a puncher. The new one has all of those things and then a couple more things, which I think is dope. It adds to the value for this figure. You don't feel like you're being, gypped at all with any of the cost versus what you actually get. Now, at first glance, it's like, oh, he only has like one more thing, and one more pair of hands. But no, it's not actually that simple because the case opens up. You have slots for all the other memories, whereas if you get Double and what's his face, Eternal, which they also did renewal versions of them. They're fucking expensive. It's ridiculous, but you could put their memories in there. Whereas Eternal has a ton of memories, but you can remove the double driver, which is pretty awesome. It also has open slots for you to put the Cyclone and the Joker small Gaia memory in there. The other one, what was I gonna say? The I'm sorry. The standard release has this tiny thing. Like I said, the tiny Gaia memory, the skull Gaia memory. That thing will get lost. I had to use the super small tweezer type deals to hold it and to get it in where I needed it to get in. It's like a piece that, as much as I'm amazed at it, kind of like the bullet that came with Pursuit of Cobra and 50th anniversary low light. This is one of those things. It's awesome, but it's unnecessary. You know, but yeah, it overshadows the other release. Just those simple things. I mean, you look at the driver is reminiscent of what the original. This is the old school double, because I wasn't gonna pay 100 plus for the new one. If I find him for a deal, I'll get him. But you can see that this one is a lot simpler. It's not a metallic red, it's more of a standard red. But the other two drivers are in there. You have the two colors that split down the center. It's dope. You know what I mean? It looks right. But here you got it in the case, just like in the show. The hats. You can see what I was talking about before. The shape of the hats are slightly different from the original one to the renewal, which makes sense if you saw the films and the shows, and you'd want that. The scarf or ascot, it's supposed to be burnt and tattered. That's what we get. The other one is more of, it's tattered, but it's not as damaged as this. This looks like it's charred and it's been through some shit. which is cool. And it has a hinge, so it's posable, so you can actually do stuff with it, you know, instead of having to take his head off and switch the ascot if you don't want to. Again, I have no problem with this, but you know, some people out there will. Um, so I'm impressed with the changes, and it's really well like fastened in there. Once it gets in there, you don't have to worry about it. The count up your sins hand. Look at how much more uh, on point, more of a point that you're getting with the SS. Not that he never did it like that, you know. And then the hand to hold his hat. He usually holds his hat with three fingers, you know, the thumb, the index, and the middle finger. And over here, it's only all the rest of the fingers except for his pointer. Um, the skull driver or skull magnum, it's pretty dope. At first glance, it's like, oh, what? They're the same. No, there's slight differences if you look at just the body of the thing. And the SS version is slightly smaller than the original. This is the original. You can see it is well detailed, well sculpted. It's kind of big, but it has to fit the bigger hands, so those proportions are on point. And then this one is smaller, and it fits the smaller hands. But that's where the details kind of, the similarities I should say, stop. There is the barrel. There's a sight, like a little green light that's supposed to be on the top above the barrel itself, which is the silver part. That's present on the SS version. It's nitpicking because a lot of people didn't even notice these things, you know, but you know, you have those fans that are super OCD. This is for them. Also, there are the dual modes, because there's a mode where you can put the skull memory inside the Magnum, and then fire an alternate shot. And it was like an alternate, like a burst mode, you know. Here you go. You can actually do that with this, which is pretty dope. I was surprised because it's smaller, so I was expecting it to not have that functionality. And I mentioned it in my review of the Skull Crystal that it didn't do that, and if it could, I didn't figure it out. Well, it couldn't do it. This release can do it. You know what I mean? So, you know, props to them for that. And then even the detailing, when you look at it, I mean, you see the other barrel is showing, and then also the slot where you put the memory in. I was surprised. I was like, what? I thought it was just going to be like, you know, you open it and you just drop the memory in. No, there's an actual slot, just like on the real actual weapon. And the thing fits in there perfectly. Again, I didn't bother to do this on the review. I did it when I first got it, which, you know, my bad for those of you who wanted to see that. But like I said, the hassle of finding that thing once it drops out, it's not worth it, even for a review. You know, you'll have to let your imagination do it, or find that piece of, you know, of footage on maybe on a different review, because man, I went through all kinds of stuff and I got big ass hands, so that was a pain in the ass for me to deal with, so I skipped that part. But I mean, as you can see, it's all on point, man. They did the damn thing. And of course, it is that time for me to give you the bottom line. This figure was a joy to take pictures of and to review, and to revisit the things that I already liked about the original release and see it done differently here. But again, I don't feel like the price tag that these guys go for, it doesn't make sense. I mean, like I said, they're always $100 or more. When I got this guy, I got lucky because I got him in an auction that no one else had bid on. So I got him for like 50, maybe $60. No, I think it was 50. 55 shipped or something like that. And so I was like, yeah, I'm jumping on this, you know, because I wanted to see what all the buzz was about. And, you know, while I love the sculpt and I love the detailing and the articulation is there, and I love just the overall look, you know, the screen accuracy, I still don't think that this is you know, $100+ figure. I mean, I talked about Eternal being expensive, and that was the standard release, and now they did a new version of Eternal on this body with all the different memories that he comes with, and just based on those, you know, two metrics or those two details, you know, you have a figure that goes for like $400 or more. No, that's just literally the fans creating a price because they like the product. That's not because of rarity. It's not really because the figure is worth that much. It's because somebody just offered to sell it at that price, and people have bought it at that price, which is fucking insanity. If you like these characters, you can get the standard releases for, $40-50 or less. There's no need really to go for the more expensive version that's only marginally different from the regular release. It's Figuarts after all, so even their, like, and we're talking about Kamen Rider too. Figuarts Kamen Rider, there's a whole lot of perfect and just awesome done with their Kamen Rider stuff that you don't get with any of their other lines. So if you come across those other ones, get them. I mean, now you can get Eternal for $50. Granted, he comes with a hard plastic cape, but there's so many customizers out there, so many third parties making capes and things. You can get the right kind of cloak for him. And he comes with all the right details, all the right accessories and everything. He just doesn't have 5 billion memories for you to lose. You know what I mean? Because that's the hassle. If he falls off your shelf, one of those things gets loose, you're going to lose all the memories. And that's going to be a pain. The same goes for Double. If you like Double, get this version. I have this version and the Extreme version. I'm still looking into getting all the other variations because I've seen them for cheap and they sell them in 2-packs, But I think Skull is well done any way you can come across him. Both versions are really well done, and there's no reason for you to spend the premium to get this version when you could easily get the other version and not break the bank. So for me, I got lucky and I found him. If you find him for a lower price, get him. It's worth it. If you find any of these figures, these renewal figures, for a lower price, get them. But if you don't, stick with the previous releases, and you're not really missing that much. You're missing very minute add-ons, very minute improvements that are for the people who are really hardcore looking for that screen accuracy, and maybe one or two of those details was missed in the original release. And overall, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. There's really, in this day and age, when you make a figure start going for $100, that's like your Mafex real action hero prices, which is 100 plus. You're getting more with those releases. You're getting cloth, you're getting metal skeletons, you're getting all the posability, you're getting all those details and accessories. You need to get that with the figure. You know what I mean? It can't just be marginally different or just, minutely different. So, for me, like I said, if you find him for a reasonable price, he's 100% worth it. Because it's the Figuarts level of quality, you know what I mean? Just slightly tweaked up, in certain areas. But if not, stick with the original release. But as it stands on its own, the SS line, what I've seen with this figure, it's the usual goodness from Figuarts that's so worth it. And I can see why a lot of fans are, really, going apeshit, getting rid of their old versions and getting the new ones. But you have to do it for the right price. But this, as a standalone piece, S-class stuff. You know what I mean? Just pure S-class stuff. It blows away a lot of other figure lines, as Figuarts often does when it comes to Japanese characters. So as usual, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. This has been my look at the Figuarts SS renewal Kamen Rider Skull. And I think it's a dope ass figure. It's well worth it if you can get it for a decent price. So that is it for me. You guys, as always, have been great. And I will see you on the next video. Peace outside.